Right, all praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High Elohim of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I want to say peace to each and every one of you in the name of His Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, who we know as Jesus the Christ. It's always a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to bring a message contained in His Word, and I never counted it as a light thing to do so. In today's message, I want to deal with a common misconception, and that is the misconception about judgment. You know, when you talk to the average Christian today, many of them believe that if you say something that they're doing is wrong, that you don't have the right to do that because that's judgment and only God can judge me. I call it the Tupac doctrine. Only God can, there's no disrespect to Tupac, but you know, he had the song, Only God Can Judge Me. And that's a misconception. And what people are misconstruing is actual judgment that has been given to the Son when it comes to who's when it comes to even being cast in the lake of fire, right? And then there is judgment regarding to whether or not something's correct and incorrect when compared to Torah. So let's go to let's see. Give me a second to find this. I think we'll start in John. This is John. This is John 5. You know what? Not John 5. Let's pick it up at Matthew 7. That's where it's at. So we might well go there. Matthew 7. And we'll go back to John 5 a little later. Matthew 7 and verse 1. And, you know, I've seen this on a number of occasions. Somebody could be, you know, I mean, in the midst of sin. They could be in the midst of adultery. They could be in the midst of homosexuality. They could, you know, be stealing or doing something that's totally wrong. You say, hey, that's wrong. And they'll say, you can't judge me. Only God can judge me. And then they'll, you know, they'll misquote something like this: say, judge not that ye be not judged. Right? That's Matthew 7 and 1. So when you read that, now if you don't read the rest of that and you take that and then you you make that appeal in your life that hey, you can't say anything against what somebody's doing that's wrong. Well, hey man, you know, he killed 5 people. Well, hey, I can't call it. What? No, that's wrong. Hey man, he slept with that dude's wife. Hey, well, you know, hey, I can't call it. Well, you know, you can say something is wrong, right? And he's not saying here, you know, judge not that you be not judged. And the meaning that you can't judge something that somebody does. Because that's what this is about. It's actually about unrighteous judgment. So it's always good to, when you're reading something in the Bible, especially when you don't understand what's written, context is key. What is the context? What are the preceding and verses before it's saying, and what are the preceding verses after it's saying? And sometimes, you know, the context is chapters long, meaning it goes on for chapters. So you just have to know what's contextually going on. So when he says, judge not that you be not judged, you can't close the book and walk away and say, hey, I can't, you can't judge. You can't say anything against anything I'm doing. And I can't say anything against anybody else, what they're doing. No, he said, judge not that ye be not judged. And he says something after that. Verse 2 says, for with the judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with that, and with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. So what he's talking about is righteous judgment. He's saying, don't be a hypocrite, right? Notice, and he continues, and it'll make sense if you continue to read. He says, and why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? So a mote is like a speck, right? So you ever had somebody that says something, you know, could have been a minor mistake, and they went off, and you looked at them, and they're the greatest transgressor in that realm or whatever mistake you made. And it's almost like you think of yourself, or you may even say, I know you're not talking, right? That's what's happening here. How are you going to say you're going to come against somebody and you haven't cleaned your own house up, right? Somebody dropped a crumb on the floor and your house looked like you were hoarding. You a hoarder. You got all kind of stuff in your house. I can't believe there's a crumb on the floor. Man, you can't even walk in your house. So that's what he's saying. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? You see that all the time. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about unrighteous judgment. He said, or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye. So you got a beam in your eye, but hey, man, you got a little speck in your eye. Let me get that out, man. You know, what? You know? It's like I get an example of a man. He said, this man look at a man's wife, which you should not do. I'm not saying that's right at all. I want to be clear. And he said, man, she sure does look good, right? And you should not do that. The Bible speaks against that. I'm not saying I don't want to be misconstrued. But then the man said, how dare you look at that man's wife? I don't believe you did that. I was just making an observation. No. You looking at that man's wife. I can't believe it. And he done slept with her and 10 other men's wives in that week. That's an example of what he's talking about. That man got a beam in his eye, but he's talking about a mote in somebody else's eye. So what should you do? He says, thou hypocrite, because this is about hypocrisy. He says, thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote of thy brother's eye. So that's what he's talking about. He's talking about he's telling you not to be a hypocrite. That's basically what he's saying. All right. So now so that should not be misconstrued or misunderstood, right? Because he is judging. So now what judgment is that? Now let's go to John the 5th chapter. John the 5th chapter. And it says, for the Father, in verse 22, it says, for the Father judges no man, but have committed all judgment unto the Son. Okay, so when it's all said and done, when you talk about judgment, that's given unto him. Because there is a judgment to whether somebody's going to get in be cast into the lake of fire. That's given to him, right? But when it comes to saying something is, matter of fact, let's read this in Ecclesiastes, just so you can get an idea what I'm talking about. Because this, he tells you here, I should just quote it, but I read it. He said, Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter. That's he said, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter, fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. But understand that it is the Mashiach, he's going to do the judging. Okay? He's going to rain down judgment upon his earth. He's coming back in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them like God that obey God's gospel. He's the one that's going to bring fire. Where Isaiah talked about this earth's going to be burned, a few men left. He's doing that. So people shouldn't be misunderstand that. But when it comes to saying something is right or wrong, hey, that's definitely something that you can do. And let's see an example of that. Let's go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians, the 2nd chapter, and we'll pick it up at verse. Let's pick it up at 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 15. Because it's not that you shouldn't judge. You need a measuring stick by which to judge, right? So he says in verse 15, but he that is spiritual judgeth all things. Yet he himself is judging no man. So if you spiritual, you judge all things. But what are you judging according to? You're judging according to the word. Let's continue with Paul's writings and go right into the 6th chapter. Notice what he said here. 5. 1 Corinthians 5 and verse 1. It reads, it is reported commonly that there is fornication among you. Now, what fornication is actually is people had that misconstrued. But nevertheless, it said, in such fornication as is not so much as named among the Gentiles, that one should have his father's wife. Now he's saying, listen, this is in the congregation of Corinth, and Corinth has some problems, right? But he said, as far as that in that congregation, he said, hey, listen, and he talked about here in this chapter the indifference to sin. But what you had they were doing things that unbelievers weren't even doing. He said, hey man, this man is laying with another man's wife or his father's wife. Right? That's what Reuben did. He lay with Jacob's concubine, right? So he said, and ye are puffed up and have not rather mourned. That's speaking to the indifference to the sin. Like, why y'all sitting around and you think this is all okay when this is wrong. He said that he that had done this deed might be taken away from among you. Then he says something in verse 3, for I verily, as absent in body, but present in spirit, have judged already. See what he said, spiritual man judged already. And he said he wasn't even there and judged. He said, as though I were present concerning him that has so done this deed. But the question is, well, what is he judging according to? Let's go read it. Let's go to Leviticus. Leviticus, pick it up in the 18th chapter. See, so how did he know it was wrong? You know what right and wrong is, and the standard of right and wrong is Torah. It's interesting. I was watching somebody the other day, and I usually don't watch people at all. I don't watch, but I looked at this video and he was just making these judgments about people, and all he was saying, this somebody who was in the truth. But what he was saying, it wasn't unlawful what he was talking about. Let's pick it up in Leviticus, the 18th chapter. Pick it up in Leviticus 18. Give me 1 second here. This is Leviticus 18 and verse 8. So this is in the law. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. Okay? So what is he saying there? He's telling you you're not supposed to deal with your father's wife. That's an abomination. That's not something that should be done, right? But he went to what? He went to the text to show you that. Okay? So that's just something on judgment, a quick lesson on judgment. When it comes to judging, you can judge something right or wrong. You know what's right or wrong based on the Bible. We judge things every day, right? We'll look at. I saw a video the other day. It looked to me like a police misconduct. I judged it what according to a man's law, according to common sense. It looked bad. But we judge things every day, but when it comes to sin, nobody wants to judge, not even the so-called preacher. And that's because people don't want to obey. That's what that boils down to. That's at the heart of that. They don't want to obey. But you need to judge, and to judge according to the law. Matthew 7. Now, when it comes to him judging, judgment is given unto him. He's going to execute judgment upon this whole world. So with that, brothers and sisters, it's always my prayer that you, and peace to everybody that's listening, it's always my prayer that you will edify.